Hello everyone, it's me again. Here's my second video on flying the classics in P3D, my favorite kind of flying. This will cover very basic VOR navigation. So if you're a real pilot training or a real pilot professional, you probably don't want to watch this video. It's not for you. There are tons and tons of videos anyway on VOR navigation on YouTube. This is just for simmers who just want to enjoy the classics, just have fun. And the terminology used in this video will be totally inaccurate. Lots will be false. So maybe you just want to stop watching now if you know already how to fly VOR navigation. But for those of you that have no idea, and I post a lot of pictures on Facebook of my classic airliners, I get some people interested. Oh, I'd love to do that, but I have no idea how to fly VOR navigation. Maybe I can help. So I've chosen my route. We're at Sky Harbor Airport on the wrong runway. AI traffic going around one after the other by Southwest. Going to fly out on runway 26. Rocket out here. Swing a left as per chart to, you can see here. So we're going to fly out here. Swing a left 240 heading to 13 miles out from the Phoenix VOR. And then we're going to swing a right on a heading of 280 and then intercept the 257 radial into Buckeye. Now for those professionals, they might say it's the radial 077 actually. Yeah, well for me that might be right, but I'm going to be flying 257 degrees towards that VOR, so it just helps me think of it that way. Okay, so there's the charts. VOR navigation. Oh, come on, let's see if I can. I've got a picture here from the internet, and I'm really sorry if I've stolen this. I'm just using it. Sorry, but this is a VOR radial. Oh, sorry, station. Station would be situated somewhere on the ground. It's beaming out. Again, this is all inaccurate. Beaming out signals, beams, whatever you want to call it. 360 degrees around here. You can see the magnifying glass is showing you that for every degree there is actually a radial signal. This would have a frequency, this VOR station. Then you'd have to tune your or point your dial on your VOR or HSI receiver, and then you could fly the radial. So we're going to be flying out to on the 257 radial, or would be probably inbound 077, which would be about somewhere here, and we're going to tune our radio and we're going to point our pointer to pick up that radial and fly that radial all the way to the station. The problem is, and we can put our autopilot on nav and it will fly that radial, but when we get a little bit closer to the station it gets a little bit sensitive and then starts to overcorrect, and then you'll fly zigzags over the top of the station. So from a trusted friend, a professional pilot, they'd fly actually quite a lot on heading and just align the needle and the course deviation bar, which we'll go through later, to stay on the radial. And then when you overfly the station, you actually lose the signal for some seconds. Depending on your height, that can happen actually like 4 or 5 miles away from the station. So you have to anticipate a little bit if you have to fly, say for example here, a 90 degree radial to the station and then fly on something like 240 outbound. You would actually anticipate somewhere just before and then plan the turn so that you don't overshoot the radial and then have to join it. It's all fun, it just takes practice. So there's yeah, I just think of it as like a bike wheel with the spokes, and you're just flying down one of the spokes to the center of the wheel. Simple as that. These stations, yeah, they're all different. Some of them you can pick up on the ground if they're near, like the Phoenix VOR in a moment, you will see. Some of them you have to be at a certain altitude, and in real life that's going to be, the signal is going to be blocked by mountains, buildings or whatever. Some of them only produce signals up to a certain altitude, so some of them are high altitude en route VORs, some are low altitude. It's all fun. Some of them you can pick up 200 miles away. Some of them you got to be within 30 or 40 miles of the VOR to pick them up. It's really good fun. Hope that made sense. So if I've got my radios tuned here. I've got the 115.6 Phoenix VOR here, and you can see it's kind of behind the runway, which you'll see in a moment is exactly what my aircraft says. The Buckeye VOR, we're picking up nothing on that at the moment because it's too far away. But I've got those two tuned in because that's what we need for the initial departure. Let's go into the cockpit. So you can see I've got 110.6 here, which is the Buckeye VOR, and we want to fly 257 degrees to that VOR. So if we look at my HSI, I've already got my 257 radial there already. Sorry, just line it back up, a little sensitive here sometimes. So of course this is just one thick line now here. If we just skip on over to the other side, by the way, here I've got the 115.6 on the first officer's side already tuned, and we can see there, if we just zoom in a little bit, now this is not one thick line. This deviation bar now is offset. Okay, don't worry about that at the moment. I'll pause in flight and try to explain that a little bit, how it's working. But we can see here that says we are 1 mile away from that VOR, and that kind of makes sense. Excellent. There's no marker here to or from, which I thought it would have, but it doesn't matter. But if I turn around the course here at some point, oh, there we go, that's the arrows popped up now, it's showing us that the VOR is behind us. But at some point this deviation bar will go across and join a thick line here, because we're picking up the VOR, so we're actually sitting on one of the radials, one of the beams of the VOR, and if we tune it till we get a thick line, so we are on a heading, on a beam of about 102 degrees. It's 102 degrees to that VOR, which is behind us. Or we can do it the other way. We can go spin around, and we can say we're on the outbound 281 radial. We don't actually need that VOR for the departure, we just need the DME. Why do we need the DME from that radial? Because we've got to fly out to 1,550 feet and then turn 240 degrees to 13 miles away from the Phoenix VOR. So we need this distance to let us know when we're 13 miles. I had this turned around to 240. That's just a little reminder for me on the departure that I should be heading 240 degrees on the initial heading. Okay, of course on my side I have runway heading for the departure, and then I'm going to flick the heading around. It's really cool here on the DC-9 here, if I flick this switch I can take the information from the first officer's radio here, which is really useful, and then when I need to switch to another VOR I can switch it back to mine here. It's really cool. I like this. Like I say, my favorite aircraft, the FS Labs of classic airliners. Awesome simulation. This is the, I think they call it the RMI. This is picking up, this is radio magnetic indicator picking up the VOR. I might be wrong on that, by the way, but this is picking up the VOR number 2 with the 2 lines here, is telling me that that Phoenix VOR is behind me. That's just a backup for what we already know from the first officer's side HSI. Buckeye would be the dotted line, as it says here, VOR1, but not picking it up. So when we pick it up, that will swing around and point to where that station is. We can use automatic direction finder ADF here also, which is a bit different to VOR, and if we had one of those tunes to pick that up, we'd just flick this switch around here, and then that needle would point to the ADF, or sorry, the NDB station that we've got tuned, but we'll leave that today. So there we go. Watch the video again if that didn't make any sense. Yeah, it's not easy to explain, but basically there's a bike wheel and each degree is a spoke, and we're going to fly along those spokes to the stations. It's really cool. So that's a little bit of what we need to know. I think I'm ready to go. I've got my aircraft set up here. It says somewhere on the chart about here where I did read it. At the Buckeye VOR, maintain 8,000, then via transition expect filed altitude 3 minutes after departure. So I've just got my altitude alert here on 8,000 feet. Got my flaps set, V-speed set, hydraulics are on, all good to go. Yeah, it's not about flying here, this is just about navigation, but I think we're ready to go. Next video I'll depart and show you how to fly this departure as per the chart. Well, I'll do my best. See you soon.